Hello, my lady. Let's talk about expansion. And no, I'm not talking about just a leveling up in a cute, Instagrammable way. What I'm talking about is the deep spiritual, emotional, and mental expansion that requires you to stretch. Because let's be real, if you are manifesting anything in this season, if you're stepping into more, expansion is not optional. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Welcome back to Awaken Her, the podcast where we have real, raw, and transformative conversations about rebuilding, renewing, and rising into the life God has called us to. I'm your host, Aji Michael, and today we're talking about something that will challenge you, stretch you, and call you higher: the courage to expand. This episode is a follow-up to my IG Live. Yes, you heard me. I had my first IG Live when I talked about for the past 3 years, I've not done any form of live, whether on IG or Facebook. So this is really cute. We had such an incredible conversations about stepping into new dimensions of abundance. If you missed it, no worries. You are in the right place, because today I'm even going to go deeper into what it means to break free from stagnation, stretching into your divine capacity, and really stop shrinking when God is calling you into more. One of the things I've also started doing is to be sharing snippets of the live on my Instagram page. All right, before we go into today's conversation, I want to ask you, how did you celebrate International Women's Day? Did you take time to celebrate yourself? Because sis, you are that woman, the one who is capable of greatness, of impact, of shifting atmospheres. So I took myself on a bus ride. I went to Birmingham in the UK. I live in the United Kingdom and I live in Nottingham. So I went to Birmingham on a bus ride, went to this lovely restaurant, huge restaurant. That was my first time. I'm going to share the name of the restaurant and I'm going to tell you why now. So I ordered a nice meal and quite pricey, I must add. But later the day, my son was asking me, when I told him the price, and he said, "Oh, are you going to go there again?" I said no, because the food wasn't memorable. So that was my International Women's Day celebration. But it was a good day, really positive, spent time reading, catching up some things on my phone, writing this script for today's podcast. Started reflecting on expansion, even going deeper into the ways that I've been shrinking myself and how to practice expansion more on a daily basis. So it was really a good time for me to reflect. So how did you celebrate your International Women's Day? Head over to my Instagram page at AjiAlMichael and let's talk. And also, if you are not following His Lady Global on Instagram, what are you waiting for? Please head over to at His Lady Global on Instagram page and let's be friends. And please do share our page with your friends, colleagues, and any woman that you know. We want to support women to rebuild their lives, renew their spirit, and really rise into their God's purpose for their lives. So this sounds like an advert, isn't it? Okay. Now, the truth of the matter is, when we expand, we create space for others to do the same. When I expand, I create space for others. When you expand, you create space for others to do the same. So expansion is really important for us. Really, expansion is required for manifesting. You cannot manifest financial breakthroughs, purpose alignment, new opportunities if you're unwilling to stretch. And the truth is, too many of us are praying for more. But what we're doing is we are resisting the growth required to receive it. We are really breaking that cycle. In this episode, I'm going to go deeper into why expansion is a divine law, how contraction is actually blocking your blessings. Contraction is what we call when somebody is playing small. But when you use the word playing small, it's not giving it the spiritual impact that it warrants. That's why I'm calling it contraction. I wanted to talk about again the cost of staying stagnant and really how to activate your expansion. I was talking about while I was on the bus the other day, I started reflecting about my own personal activation. There are areas where I feel I need to expand. Now you can pick different areas, but I might be doing another episode in terms of that area. So this is one powerful episode you really want to sit down. So I want to encourage you to get ready to take notes, spend time to reflect, and really to step boldly into the woman you were created to be. A bonus thing that I plan to do while I was writing this episode, I didn't plan it before, but yesterday I started thinking about, and also on the bus the other day I mentioned I was doing my own kind of reflection too. Beginning from Monday, which is tomorrow, so I didn't record this episode on Wednesday. So I'm recording this episode today, Sunday, which is a day after International Women's Day. That's what I'm asking you. How did you spend your International Women's Day? So depending on when you're listening to this episode. So what I plan to do is from Monday tomorrow, I want to take you on a 5-day challenge where I'll be showing up every day and sharing with you actions to take on a daily basis to help you to expand. Many of us, we have been programmed from a very young age to shrink. Now, it takes time for you to practice expansion. Some of these things might be uncomfortable for some of us. And I get that. That's the reason why I'm now going to include a 5-day challenge. So make sure you head over to my Instagram page at @AjiAlMichael, where I'll be sharing with you some of those actions that you'll be taking on a daily basis for expansion. Do not miss it. All right. It sounds like an advert, but I hope I did the advert well anyway. Now let's talk about why expansion is required for manifesting. So sis, let's be clear. Manifestation requires room. You cannot attract more when your hands, mind, and spirit are full of limitations, fear, and small thinking. Expansion is a requirement for abundance. Ultimately, God commanded expansion. He designed us to multiply, to fill, to take dominion. When we resist growth, we resist the very nature of our divine assignment. And I also want you to know that expansion and contraction are energies. You know that feeling when you hesitate before taking a big step. That's contraction. That's fear trying to keep you comfortable. But sis, let's call it out today. Playing small is keeping you from the very thing you've been praying for. I'm just going to give you what expansion looks like. Expansion it looks like taking up space unapologetically. That's part of the things I'm going to be talking about, giving you tips on things you need to do during my challenge. Expansion is speaking up boldly and showing up boldly. Expansion is sharing your dreams without fear, without hesitation, surrounding yourself with people where you can share your dreams, your wins, your success with them without fear because you trust them and you feel safe around them. Expansion is pursuing purpose regardless of the discomfort. Expansion is trusting God's timing and movement concerning every area of your life. The energies of contraction operates in a different way. For example, playing small to avoid discomfort. Some of you stay small simply because you want people around you to feel good. You don't want them to say your own is too much. Some of you're hiding your gift to keep others comfortable. You don't want to, raise your hand up. You don't want to speak up at meetings, even at work, that you know something or you have experience in something because you don't want your boss to feel you're rubbing shoulders with them. Some of you delaying your decisions because of fear. So you spend many months or many days or whatever you're indecisive. Indecision is a form of playing small. When you have a clear vision in terms of what you want, you will be decisive because you have to know, am I going right or am I going left? Shrinking your joy out of guilt, trying to think, is it even before you know, you start doubting your joy. You start doubting your good news. Is it even worth sharing at all? That's contraction. Ignoring the pull of purpose because it feels too big. That is contraction. And sis, I want to tell you, every time you hesitate, every time you shrink or you hold back, you contract your divine potential. You stop the flow of what was meant for you. The longer you stay in contraction, the more disconnected you become from your purpose. And I want to now just touch base. When I mean the word touch base, because it's huge, I want to talk about the cost of not expanding. Because I just mentioned now that the longer you stay in contraction, the more disconnected you become from your divine purpose. And the reason why this is really important to really touch base about the cost of not expanding is because your life is dependent. Someone's life, somebody's breakthrough, somebody's deliverance. That's the word I'm looking for. Someone's deliverance is tied to your own obedience. For example, some of the cost of not expanding will be frustration. When you experience constant frustration, maybe feeling stuck or unable to pinpoint why, check yourself, where am I not expanding? Where am I shrinking? Which area am I playing small? Because, the way you feel frustrated is because maybe you've outgrown certain things. It's like, imagine you're wearing a size 7 shoe and you're trying to squeeze your feet in a size 6. You will just be so uncomfortable. It does not matter whether this shoe is a designer or I've bought this shoe, sis, yeah, thank you, is a designer, but I think it's time to let go, ma'am. Another cost of not expanding is bitterness. When you watch others move forward while you remain stagnant, what happens is it breeds bitterness, it breeds resentment. When you start seeing yourself, maybe you start resenting people and you may not know, pinpoint, why am I resenting these people? Why am I just having this root of bitterness in me? It is because you are not expanding. You see, when you are doing yours, other people are doing theirs, you are able to come to the table and just say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But because when you see that there's really nothing about you have nothing to share, you begin to resent others for no just reason. That's the root of it, causes bitterness. Another cost of not expansion is you start living fearfully. You start living in fear, seeing every challenge as a limitation instead of as an invitation to move forward. As an invitation. So you start living fearfully. You spend money fearfully. When you're not able to speak your mind around people simply because you don't want to lose them, that's a scarcity mindset. That's a fear-based living. Because you feel that, when I speak my truth, I will lose this friend and I will be alone. That's living in fear. And also, I want to mention, it also blocked blessings. I mentioned that, first of all, God cannot pour more into a vessel that refuses to stretch. And also, because your destiny, your expansion is also tied to someone's expansion, somebody's growth. So what you've done is you've caused a spiritual obstruction, a spiritual traffic. Imagine you're driving and you just stop. And you're not moving, and there are cars behind you. I want you to picture that. That's what happens when we don't move. You cause a spiritual obstruction. I want you to reflect on this and make up your mind. In what areas have I been stagnant for a long time that are required to move? I made up my mind as part of my own expansion. This is me being transparent here. I've been thinking of doing this podcast for a long time, sharing these. But because for so many reasons, but I had to really embrace this. And I launched Awaken Her podcast last year. And every week this year, I have been showing up as part of my commitment to my purpose, as part of my commitment to that woman who needs to rebuild her life the way God has been helping me day by day to rebuild mine, and to be on that journey with you. And together we will rebuild our lives, renew our spirit, and rise into the woman God has created us to be all along. This is me expanding. Says God moves through vessels that makes room for more. If you want abundance, clarity and purpose, you have to expand. You have to make room for what God is trying to do in your life. Now, I know expansion can feel scary. Some of these things is easier said than done. Like for me, when I started the podcast, I wanted to change my microphone. I wanted to so many things. I still want to do anyway. But I just told myself I'm not going to allow that to stop me. I will need, so many things. Like I'm recording now from my bedroom, right? I hope very soon I'll use one of my rooms as my studio. But I'm not going to allow that to stop me. What I'm saying is that expansion stretches you into the unknown. It requires faith before clarity. And it makes you to step into rooms where you feel unqualified. But my dear, what I'm saying is that expansion is where your next level lives. I don't know what it is that you're praying for. Faith requires forward motion. Abraham left before knowing where he was going in Genesis 12 verse 1. So what I'm saying to you is that you will not always have all of the details. But if God is calling you to step, sis, it's time to step. You remember the story of Peter? He walked on water, but only when he stepped out of the boat. So the miracle didn't happen in safety, it happened in motion. What if your expansion is waiting on your willingness? What if your expansion is actually waiting on you to move? I want you to rethink about that. The previous episode I was talking about why rejection is your divine redirection. If you've not listened to that episode, I want you to listen to that episode. This expansion really move into it in terms of why rejection is actually divine redirection. So I want you to see that divine redirection is God calling you into expansion. And this, as we round up this, I really want to close this episode with what I call the spiritual activations process. How to step into expansion. See? Because this is the time for you to take action. If you feel yourself contracting, here are some tips and ways to shift into expansion. Now, these are some of the things that I have done, and I want to encourage you to do that. One of the things is begin to learn to say yes before you feel ready. For example, they call you to speak somewhere. Maybe you struggle to speak, or they call you to present somewhere. Say yes before you even try to figure it out, because it's an invitation. God doesn't call the ready. He equips the willing. The more you move, the more He reveals to you. Begin to learn to say yes. I say yes when the Holy Spirit spoke to me about this podcast. I wasn't even sure what the name, but I know that there is somebody that I need to wake up. And that's why I call it Awaken Her. Step number 2, I called it, this is spiritual activation. You're activating the expansion. You're stepping into expansion. Step number 2, you need to break the habit of shrinking. The first few times you expand, it will feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is a proof that you are stretching. What are some of the habits of shrinking? These are the habits of trying to downplay your success. These are the habits of when somebody sees your shoes and they say, I love your shoe. You quickly told them you got the shoe on sale. Why did you say that? You wanted to make them feel okay that, oh, look, I didn't spend so much money. So that's what are the habits of shrinking. You downplay your success. You downplay everything just to make people feel good. You're going left. You tell people you're going right because you don't want them to feel jealous. Why are you surrounding yourself with such people in the first instance? And that leads us to step number 3. This is stepping into expansion. Surround yourself with expanding people. Now, this requires being intentional, not scouting around for people. Because why do you need this? Growth is contagious. So get around women who normalize more. More is normal for them, to them. Because when you come to the table or when you meet and they're talking about what they're doing, you're talking about yours, everybody, so no one is looking at anyone because you are vibrating at the same level. And step 4, stepping into expansion, is speak expansion over yourself. Says your words create your world. Start declaring, I am open. I am ready. I am stepping into more. This is my season of expansion. I enlarge. My finances expand. My career expand. My relationships expand. I flourish on all levels. Says this is your season. The version of you that is standing on the other side of expansion, that woman is waiting. She's already living the overflow, the purpose, the confidence that you know you were meant for. And you are. Says, if you're ready to expand, I want to encourage you to join my 5-day challenge where I'll be sharing with you actions that you can take every day for 5 days to grow your expansion muscle. So head over to @AjiRMichael on Instagram as well as His Lady Global on Instagram. I'll be sharing those activities on those pages for 5 days. You don't want to miss that. And if you're not part of our mailing list yet, if you're not part of our community, why don't you head over to hislady.org and sign up and become an insider. All right. And lastly, before I sign out, I'm sure this episode blesses you. Why don't you share it with your sister? Give it a 5-star review and of course, leave your comment. I can't wait to read from you. Sis, you were made to rebuild, renew, and rise. I love you and I'll see you next week, Wednesday.